Hi, it's Wednesday. That means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower, and today is part 3 in our 3-part series on how to break up with a widower. Part 1, we discussed about, the reasons to break up with a widower and when you should do it. Part 2 was about the actual breakup and how to make that the best situation for everyone involved. And you, by the way, if you want to find those videos, I'll post them down in the comments below, or you can search through my channel. They're up. This part, however, is on how to make it through the days and weeks following the breakup, which can actually be harder than the actual breakup itself. So we're going to discuss ways that you can do it. In fact, we have 4 tips and tricks to get through those days and weeks. And we'll also discuss as well what to do if the widower wants a second chance or he wants to get back together, how you can know if he's really serious about this or not. So the first thing you need to do is have a plan for after the breakup. What I see a lot of times is people in coaching sessions or whatever, people will have a plan for the breakup. You know, they'll even write it down what it is they're going to say. And then they get home and they just don't know what to do, right? They wake up the next morning and it's like, what did I do? Or they're just, they're just sitting around with nothing to do. I think it's important to focus on the breakup and and what you're going to say and actually break up with the widower. But you need to have some idea what you're going to do in those days and weeks following the breakup. Whether you're going back to work or getting out of town, the last thing you want to do is sit around with nothing to do. You need to stay busy. If you have a lot of free time on your hands, is the absolute worst thing that you can do. It leads to second guessing and loneliness and other issues, and then the next thing you know, you find yourself back in a relationship where nothing's changed, and it isn't good for the widower or yourself. So what I suggest is, before you break up with a widower, is make a list of things you need to do that maybe you haven't had time for recently, or make a plan to get out of town or do some other kind of something that'll just kind of take you away from things for a while. I don't know, go see family, things like that. It's something that I work on in coaching sessions. Is we not only work on how to go through the breakup, but what are you going to do in the days and weeks following it. So again, have a plan. Just again, I guess some ideas that I've seen is people go through and they'll like spring clean the entire house, for example, or maybe they'll take a trip that they've always wanted to take, or I don't know, they'll. The point is that you need to find something to do. It's already a hard time, and the last thing you need to do is just to sit around with nothing to do. That actually makes things worse, not better. The second tip is to focus on yourself. So maybe as you're making these plans, hang out with family, friends, and others. Treat yourself to some kind of activity that you enjoy, or maybe something you've wanted to indulge yourself in for a while but haven't been able to do. You need to get out of town, go for a trip, do it. But again, when I say focus on yourself, worry about yourself. Don't worry about the widower. Again, I've done a lot of post-breakup coaching sessions, and they're worried about, well, is the widower doing okay? You know what? He's fine. He'll be fine. He'll make it through it. Don't worry about how he's doing. You've got to worry about how you're doing, and you need to focus on you and healing you and giving yourself some time for self-reflection. The widower will be fine. He'll make it through it, I promise you. It may be hard for him, but it's not the end of the world. So again, when you're doing some of these activities, just kind of focus on yourself, focus on taking care of yourself, do some self-care things. Again, things with friends or family that can just kind of take your mind off things. But don't worry. Do not worry what the widower is doing or how he's reacting. He'll be fine. The third tip is do not contact the widower. I know it's tempting, especially if you're worried about him, to go out there and just text him real quick. Are you doing okay? How are things going? Whatever. Don't do it. I know in the previous video we talked about what you do after the breakup is you block him on social media, your phones, things like that, so he can't reach out and contact you. And again, this is, there'll be time to talk to the widower later, but the days and weeks following a breakup is not the time to do it. You need time to get your thoughts and your feelings in check. Again, the days and weeks after a breakup are really emotional, and if you contact him, that's just honestly, that's going to ruin any kind of chance you have for self-reflection and wonder if you did the right thing. You need some time. And honestly, I say about, I give people at a minimum, I say wait 2 weeks. If you really feel you need to contact him, wait at least 2 weeks. So you've had some time to kind of sit there and self-reflect and think about the things that you want to do. I highly recommend you don't contact him or don't respond to his texts or calls if you haven't blocked him yet. But really what it is again, this is this post-breakup time is time for you to kind of heal and time for you to kind of find yourself a little bit and see what life is like without him. You don't want to reach out and contact him. Trust me, he's okay. He'll be fine. Even if he's upset, he'll figure out a way to work through it. Now, to kind of tie this in is, well, what happens if the widower gets back together, right? So you've broken up. Maybe you have a plan. Whatever, you got out of town for a while. You've kind of focused on yourself, and you haven't contacted him, but somehow the widower reaches out. He finds some way to reach out to you and just says, hey, things are different. I want to get back together. Should you do it? So this is one of the reasons I recommend a period of at least 2 weeks to do some self-reflection after you break up and not contact him, because the first thing you want to do is if a widower reaches out and wants to get back together with you, is you want to make that decision with the least amount of emotion as possible. Now, granted, I understand that most of our decisions are emotional based, but we can be very emotional when we make decisions, or we can be somewhat rational when we make decisions. And usually after 2 weeks, we're doing a little bit better. We still may be smarting from the breakup, or maybe, we're kind of wondering if we did the right thing, but we're not quite as, emotionally invested in it as we were, 48 hours after a breakup, for example. So the first thing you do is, if a widower wants to get back together, you've taken this 2 weeks, and what you want to do is you want to take some time and reflect, and you want to look back on your life the last 2 weeks. You want to ask yourself, is your life better without the widower, or is it worse off without the widower? When I have people do this in coaching sessions, 95% of the time they say, my life's better. I don't have this stress in my life anymore. I don't have these problems. I'm not worried about it. So, what is your gut saying? If your gut's saying that you're better off without the widower in your life, listen to your gut. Do you really want to go back to a relationship that's full of stress and issues that really, that you really don't want to deal with? I think it's a fair question to ask. But let's just say, again, maybe you say, well, I want to give him one more shot. Okay, well, when do I do that? Well, the only circumstances I would say to give a widower a second chance is, first of all, is if your gut's telling you should, not your emotions, not like I miss him kind of thing, but if your gut inside of you is actually saying, I really think I should give him a second chance. So if that happens and his actions back up his words, then maybe you should consider giving him a second chance. So for example, let's say you broke up because there's a shrine in his house, or he refused to introduce you to his kids. Okay, those are two common reasons for breaking up with a widower. The only time you even consider getting back together with him is if, so let's just say it was a shrine issue. He says, well, things are different. I want to get back together. Then you can say, well, I told you when we had the breakup, I broke up because of this shrine in the house, for example. Have him send you photos of his house. Is the shrine still there? Because I guarantee if the shrine's still there and you're getting back together with him, what's that telling the widower? It's telling them that you really weren't serious about the breakup or the reasons for it. So if he takes down the shrine, okay, maybe it's worth giving him a second chance. Or like, for example, with his kids, if he hasn't introduced you to his kids or kept you a secret from people, he says, well, I'll introduce you to people, let's get back together. Then the very next time you get back together, it's whatever, at his house or at a function or something where you can meet these people. Again, his actions have to back it up. It's not him just saying, well, I'll change and I'll do things differently, because anyone can say anything, and they'll say, especially if widowers are lonely, they'll say anything in the world that they think will get you back together. What really matters is, what are his post-breakup actions? Is he making amends on the things? Is he changing his life? Is he actually taking steps to make his life better, or to make you number one in his heart, right? What is he doing? Is he doing things related to the breakup that show that he's actually making changes? And this is why, if you go back and look at video 2, I say, tell him why it is that you're breaking up, so he has a chance to kind of reflect and make changes in his life if he wants to. If his actions are backing up his words, then I think maybe you can, listen to your gut, maybe take a day or two and see if it is you want to get back together. But do not fall for the, well, if we get back together, I'll change thing. I never see that work. It never works. He's either in or he's out. And if breaking up with him has not caused him to take the action that he needs to do it, I guarantee you get back together when he says, I'll do it soon, or, let's plan on it next month or something like that. I guarantee what will happen is in 2 or 3 months, you'll find yourself back in the same spot you were before the breakup. Life's not any better. So there's that. So again, the 5 steps, the 5 post-breakup steps on surviving a breakup is one is have a plan for after the breakup. So you don't want to you don't want to be alone. You don't want to have nothing to do. Make some plans with friends, family, or travel, or stay busy at work, or find something to do around the house just to keep your mind busy and occupied. The second one is to focus on yourself. Remember, this is a time for you to kind of heal and reflect and see what your life is like without a widower in it. Do not worry about the widower. He'll be fine. The third is do not contact him as much as you're worried about him or things like that. Do not reach out. Do not contact him. You need this time, again, this break for kind of self-reflection to see if this is the right thing, if you did the right thing. And then the fourth thing is if the widower does want to get back together, first listen to your gut, see what your gut says about getting back together. Is your life better or worse off without him? And then the final thing is if he's if he wants to get back together, make sure his actions are backing up his words. Don't just get back together because he says he's changed. You've got to get back together because he's showing you that, hey, you know what, the shrine's gone, I'm introducing you to my kids, whatever it is. His actions got to back it up. And sometimes it's a breakup that is the kick in the butt widowers need in order to take that action. Anyway, I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower. Feel free to subscribe, comment, like, do things like that. Share this video with others you think that might need it. And I will see you next Wednesday.